Just one moment. I'll get that started.
Good evening, councillors, officers and our viewers live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Linda Messina and I'm the Mayor of Durham City Council and the chairperson of tonight's meeting. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to tonight's special council meeting. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, this meeting will be held virtually and be closed to the public in the interest of the health and safety of the public, councillors and staff. Can I also state that this is a special meeting that has been convened by council resolution to consider the undisposed business from the ordinary council meeting held on Monday, the 22nd of November. This business is the governance report, November 2021, and two confidential matters, which are the strategic property matter, the JCMP state supporting facilities, John Kane Memorial Park, that means, and there's also only two items of business to be considered at this special meeting. I declare this meeting be open at 5:31 p.m. Durham City Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as the traditional owners and custodians of the land and waters we now call Durham, and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Council pays respect to all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities in Durham. Council recognises and pays tribute to the diverse culture, resilience and heritage of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We acknowledge the leadership of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and the right to self-determination in the spirit of mutual understanding and respect. The health and safety and wellbeing of the community has and will always be paramount consideration of this council. Council continues to be guided by the government directives and wants to be able to do the right thing for the health of our community during the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is being held virtually in line with current health restrictions. Should technical problems be encountered by council, the meeting may be adjourned until these are resolved with a maximum of 30 minutes. And if we cannot resolve the problem, we will reschedule the meeting. In such circumstances, an advice message will be shown on screen. This is being live streamed via the link on the council website so that the public will be able to view the proceedings of the meeting. The meeting is also being recorded and we've made available on the council website as soon as practical after the meeting. For the visually impaired community members, the closed caption feature will be available on the recorded meeting. There are a few housekeeping matters and technical tips for councillors that I need to pass on. Please leave your video on and mute your sound unless you wish to speak. If you wish to electronically raise your hand, hover over the participants button in the main video window and then press the small hand symbol in the right-hand corner. Please use this if you wish to ask a question or leave the meeting so that I'm aware of this. You can also actually raise your hand to get my attention. Note that there is no formal chat facility available during this meeting, councillors or general viewers. At Durham, we pride ourselves on being a progressive and contemporary council. In the interest of demonstrating leadership, I have high expectation that we'll be professional in our conduct and the language we use throughout the evening and respectful in our debate. The chamber, virtually or in person, is both a workplace and a public space, and we have an obligation to ensure that the working environment and the public forums are safe for everyone, both emotionally and physically. Membership. Before we commence, I'd like to introduce the councillors and senior staff who are with us this evening and can confirm councillors can see and hear me. I'm going to read out the councillors based on how I see you on the screen first. You might not have the same visuals as I have, but first of all, Councillor Tim Lawrence, welcome.
Hello, welcome to everyone to the meeting.
Good evening. Councillor Caetano Greco, welcome.
Hello everyone and welcome back to our meeting.
Councillor Tom Hannon.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Councillor Trent McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations on your re-election and welcome everyone to the meeting.
Congratulations on you, Deputy. Councillor Suzanne Newton.
Good evening, Mayor Messina.
Councillor Susan Rennie.
Good evening, Mayor Messina.
Good evening. Can I note that officers present this evening were Sue Wilkinson, the Chief Executive Officer, Sam Hewitt, the General Manager of Operations and Capital, Rachel Olivier, General Manager City Sustainability and Strategies, Kerry McGrath, General Manager Communities, Jodie Watson, General Manager Governance and Engagement, Thank you all for your attendance this evening, and let's get underway. I will list the apologies as Councillor Emily Dimitriadis and Councillor Julie Williams. Item number 4, disclosures of conflict of interest. Are there any disclosures to declare officers and councillors? Ms Wilkinson.
Mayor, thank you. I'll declare a conflict of interest for item 6.1, the governance report. Thank you.
Thank you. Noted. Thank you very much. Item 5, notice of meeting. Councillors, due to the urgent and extraordinary circumstances, Council has not complied with its governance rules regarding the giving of public notice of this meeting. These urgent and extraordinary circumstances relate to commercial and contractual matters associated with the strategic property matter listed on this agenda. Pursuant to Council's governance rules, clause 1.124, Council gave as much notice as was practical on its website, www.durham.gov.au. This explanation will be recorded in the minutes of this meeting. Councillors, the governance report in the first item we have tonight. On Monday evening, we had dealt with the questions on this matter and had commenced debate, although we had not reached a final resolution on this matter. Accordingly, unless there are any further new questions, I'll be seeking a motion on this matter before Council. So item number 6.1, the governance report, November 2021. Councillor Tim Lawrence.
Yes, Mayor, I just have a procedural question, more generally, though it does affect that item that you're talking about. I just reflected on this meeting's, the motion to have this meeting was moved after the time. Could I just have clarity that this meeting is actually within process? I understand there's other things have happened after the meeting, but just the motion to have this meeting was actually past 11:16. So could I just get some reassurance that we're actually, that is a legal constituted meeting tonight?
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Over to Mr. Mann. I did get some advice from him during after the meeting. Over to you, Mr. Mann.
Through you, Mayor Messina. Yeah, Monday's council meeting went to 11:15 or thereabouts, and at the very end of the meeting, a resolution was passed by the council to hold this special council meeting at this time. I guess through you, Mayor Messina, I'm comfortable that this is a duly constituted and appropriate council meeting that's been convened.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. We have another question from Councillor Greco.
Thank you, Mayor Messina. Mayor Messina, I reviewed the videotape of the meeting, and it doesn't correspond to me that the motion that was passed to convene this meeting was actually done prior to 11:15. It was actually done at about 11:16, 11:17. So it was actually after 11:15. And I just reviewed the video of the meeting just yesterday, just to confirm that, because I was concerned whether this was a legally constituted meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Greco. I'm making the assumption, and Mr. Mann, can you please correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that the time isn't actually about the time that's allocated. I understand that it's about the 4 hours and the duration rather than the time of 11 or 11:15. Can I have some clarification around that? From my understanding that some of the breaks doesn't constitute that we're actually physically in a meeting. Mr. Mann, would you like to address that, please?
Well, interesting question, Mayor Messina. I think I would subscribe to the view that the meeting can go for 4 hours from 6 o'clock and it can go for further 15 minutes. The fact that Council resolved as it did on Monday evening and that resolution was passed, I guess I would take the view, irrespective if that was 16 minutes past 11, that the intention of the council was to convene this meeting. People voted on that, and that was the will of the council at that point.
Councillor Greco, do you have a further supplementary question?
Yeah, I do. Look, I really don't want to be pedantic or on this point, but my reading of the governance rules basically state that after 11:15, that the meeting basically is adjourned, so that no other business can be transacted after that time. And that's my understanding of the governance rules. I went back to them to have a read of them. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, and also there was no leading up to 11:15. There was no mention by the mayor that we needed to transact other activities. If we needed to transact other activities after 11 o'clock, that should have been mentioned before 11 o'clock, and that was not mentioned. So my reading of the governance rules is that after that 15 minutes extra time that's given, then if matters are not being dealt, any matter after that 15 minutes is basically needs to be adjourned, and that's the situation. So I don't think it's correct, with all respect to our officers, that this was done within the 15 minutes as has been suggested.
Thank you, Councillor Greco. Mr. Mann, over to you.
I'll just add, if you if you like, we can, we suspend the meeting slightly to go back, check the video, and actually check the timing of the of when the motion was passed.
So we're disputing over a minute. Is that correct, Councillor Greco?
No, we're disputing over the adherence to the governance rules, Mayor. It's not over the minute. It's disputing over the governance rules that we have in place.
I'm going to rely on the officers' advice. They are the experts in this area, so I will be relying on Mr. Mann and perhaps Ms. Wilkinson or Ms. Watson to provide that advice, and I will rely on the experts to address that.
Mayor, through you, can I suggest that you take a 5-minute adjournment just to allow me? I missed the beginning of the question. I want to make sure that I'm clear on the query because I'd left the meeting. So to make sure that I'm very clear on the question, I don't believe this question was put to us prior to this moment. So it'd be good just to take a minute, please, to consider that. So if you could adjourn for 5 and then we'll come back.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms.
That'll be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, at this particular time, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. May I request that I understand the microphones off, and if we can turn our videos off, and we'll have the message on the screen. Thank you very much, councillors.
Durham.
Good evening, councillors and officers and viewers streaming live stream. I'm just viewing live stream, sorry. I'm just waiting for Councillor Hannan and Councillor Lawrence to appear on the screen.
Sorry, Mayor, the host has stopped my video. Could the host please start it again?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, are we ready to go? I now, as the chair, I now reopen the meeting. So over to you, Ms. Wilkinson. I understand that you are checking the governance local laws in relation to the question put through from Councillor Greco.
Mayor, thank you.
Just one moment,
Councillor Greco. There he is.
Yes, yeah, great. Yeah, he is. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We've checked the start time of the meeting. The meeting actually started at 6:03. Which in fact provides the opportunity for this. So I'm confident the meeting is lawfully constituted. In any case, there was a break, as you recall. We had technical issues for Councillor Greco, which don't count towards the time. So I'm more than comfortable that this meeting is lawful. Councillors, it'd be good if in the future we have concerns about these things, if we could have those raised prior to the meeting, that'd be really helpful. But I think you can proceed.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any further questions? Councillor Greco.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just wanted to know if the meeting started at 6:03, can we confirm what time the meeting finished also?
Councillor Greco, I'd have to throw to Stephen Mann, but I believe you just referred to 11:16.
But that's just my humble recollection. But I'd like that to be confirmed, please.
Through you, Mayor. I was not at the end of the meeting, as you recall, because the matter being discussed, I had a conflict of interest.
Yeah, thank you. My understanding, Stephen Mann did advise me it was 11:16. Yeah. So, Mr. Mann, are you in the meeting? Could you please kindly confirm that?
I am in the meeting, Mayor Messina, although the host needs to unblock my video, and I can join you. But that is my recollection as well. The actual minutes of Monday's meetings have yet to be just being finalised, but 11:16 is my recollection, and certainly reflect my notes of the meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Greco, do you have any further questions?
Yeah, look, I'm just uncertain about that because, previously we heard 11:15, now we're hearing 11:16. And so, what was the actual time? I mean, we're getting conflicting advice in relation to this.
Thank you, Councillor Greco. My understanding, I'm going back to what Ms. Wilkinson stated. First and foremost, she indicated that the meeting commenced at 6:03 and the meeting, as you indicated, ceased at 11:16. I'm convinced that is within the governance rules based on what Ms. Wilkinson has advised. They are the experts, I am not. Therefore, I will ask that the meeting continue unless there's any further questions. Great. At the moment, can I ask that since you have declared a conflict, Ms. Wilkinson, can I confirm from the host when you leave, when you're ready, when you've left the meeting? Thank you, councillors. Do I have a motion? Councillor Rennie.
Mayor Messina, I'd like to move the motion as recommended in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Rennie. Do I have a seconder? And I can't see.
Mayor Messina, if just a point of clarification, I'm not sure whether you gave people an opportunity to ask questions on the item before us. I
actually did, Councillor Greco, and you asked a question. You asked several questions. I did ask that. So, do you have a question in relation to the item, or are we going back to the?
No, I had a specific question in relation to the item, not a question in relation to the convening of the meeting. I've asked my questions there.
Okay. Well, I did ask at the beginning of the item.
I must have missed it, unless my computer, I must have missed it.
That's okay. That's fine, Councillor Greco.
Point of order.
Yes, Councillor Hannan.
I was under the understanding that in the previous meeting we had finished the questions to the staff and we had entered into the debate. Therefore, there'd be no more questions to staff. at
Actually,
this
I have,
point.
yes,
Is that
I did
correct?
state that. Yes, I did state that actually. So let's begin the debate. So we do have I have accepted a notice mover from Councillor Rennie, seconded by Councillor McCarthy. Do we have, would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rennie?
Thank you, Mayor Messina. Very briefly, because I did speak to this motion, in fact, on Monday night, just to say that this is our governance report that comes to Council every month. This month it contains a number of different items. Those include the summary of advisory committees, council briefings and other informal meetings of councillors, the reports that Mayor and councillors put together, the responses to public question time, a councillor expenses report, summary of minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee, a summary report of the hearing of submissions committee that was held on the 8th of November, council community advisory committees, and I particularly had recommended that those interested in the way in which community members engage and the level of community interest in advisory committees might be particularly interested in that report, because it shows the strength of community engagement in the process of recruitment and is very transparent in outlining how many of those people, both existing members and new members who applied, were successful in joining our advisory committees. And of course, the extension of the appointment of the independent chair on the CEO Employment Matters Committee. And I'm certainly very much in support of that item, which is to extend the existing independent chair who has performed exceptionally well. And on that basis, I commend this motion to all councillors and look for your support.
Thank you.
Mayor Messina, if I may, I just got a clarification. Why I was seeking to ask some questions, because since
Councillor Greco,
we've received some legal advice in relation to this particular
Councillor
item.
Greco, sorry, sorry.
I don't know why I'm being denied the opportunity of asking questions, given.
Councillor Greco. Councillor Greco, okay, we need to take a 10-minute adjournment to allow Councillor Greco to issue some technical difficulties. And I say that you can turn off your, please turn off your cameras and your audio whilst we get Milan to call Councillor Greco. Thank you.
Can you say something just as a test?
Yeah, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3, testing.
Good evening once again, councillors. My understanding is that Councillor Greco's equipment is now working. Can I just confirm, Councillor Greco, that you're online? Councillor Lawrence, Councillor Rennie, Councillor Newton? Welcome back, Councillor Greco. Just one moment, I'll just wait for Councillor Newton to come online and we'll reopen the meeting. Welcome back, Councillor Newton. Thank you. I can confirm now all councillors are present and I will reopen the meeting. And I'm going to ask that I withdraw the mover and the seconder based on this particular item. And I go back to Councillor Greco and ask him to address his questions to the officers, please. Thank you. Councillor Greco.
Thank you, Mayor Messina, for your indulgence. Yeah, I understand that this afternoon we received some advice from Ms. Jodie Watson, and apparently it was some legal advice. And I just want to get a further explanation and context in relation to that legal advice as it pertains to this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Greco. Through you, Mayor Messina, I did seek legal advice following discussion on Monday night at the council meeting where this matter had commenced consideration, and with the benefit of time, there were concerns raised in the meeting on Monday night regarding the legal implications of council considering the reappointment of the independent chair of the CEO Employment Matters Committee for a further 1 year, which is part of the current agreement, a 2-year plus a 1-year extension. This report tonight recommends to exercise that option for an additional year. There were concerns about that term being in contrast to what is provided for in the CEO Employment Matters Committee Charter, which states that the chairperson would be appointed for a 2-year plus 1 year plus 1 year extension arrangement. The clarification I sought was whether that posed any risk or concern to council with regards to consistency. The legal advice received was that they do not believe that any issue arises since the term of the appointment is less than rather than in excess of what was provided for in the Charter. I hope that clarifies your question, Councillor Greco.
Just a further question in relation to it. Was legal advice also sought over the whole 4-year term that currently that the existing chair occupies, and whether that is appropriate or not, given that there's been we had an original contract and then somehow there was another contract and now there's another extension, and as a result of that we're going for 4 years, and tonight if this motion is passed we'll be going for a 5-year term for the existing chair. Was any advice, legal advice sought in relation to that, the appropriateness of that?
No, Councillor. I'm sorry, through you, Mayor Messina. Councillor Greco, no, I did not seek legal advice on that, and you're correct. There are 2 agreements that have been in place. This is the second agreement, and part of that second agreement is the option for an additional 12-month extension to it. That's the matter that's being considered. I did not seek legal advice on whether there was a legal risk around
the position extending to what would be, so that she was appointed originally on 3rd of April 2017, and the matter being considered tonight would take it to the 25th of November 2022.
And just further to that, could I just ask why that advice was not sought, given that that was a matter that was raised at the last council meeting?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Through you, Mayor Messina, the matter of the term of the independent chair is a matter for council to consider in terms of what it deems appropriate in terms of the position of the independent chair. There is nothing provided in the charter to prevent or limit the independent chair, and my advice to council would be that if you have an interest in doing so, that we review the charter to consider whether there is a limitation on the number of terms that the independent chair could serve or the duration of the chair in the role. At this stage, there's nothing in the committee charter that limits that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, are there any further questions? Councillor Lawrence.
Yes, thanks to officers for the information regarding the legal advice. Some of us hadn't had time to read through all that, so it was good to get that in brief. My question still goes to, I was concerned about the format of how this was presented in the agenda, and I was still wondering why the CEO Performance Employment Committee charter wasn't included as an appendix in this governance report. We've got a lot of other appendixes for things, other things, but this seems fairly high level thing that should have had the documentation for the community to see.
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Hannan.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe this question is not consistent with Governance Rules 10.11F. It's a repetition of something already said. I believe this exact question was asked and answered in the previous meeting. So could it be withdrawn unless there's another question, please?
Councillor, I'm going to have to allow it because I did say we were starting. I can understand your point, but I am going to allow it only because we're starting it at a new space. So I'm actually going to allow that question, Councillor Hannan. Councillor Lawrence, thank you for your question. Ms. Watson.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lawrence. Through you, Mayor Messina, as I stated on Monday night, the committee charter is referenced in the report. We don't always include every document that is referred to or relevant. It's not always attached to the council meeting agenda. Sometimes it is there by way of reference. So certainly was referenced, Councillor Lawrence, and you're correct, it wasn't attached. And that was nothing other than being very mindful of the volume of documentation that gets presented to council. It was nothing other than that. There was no intent to disguise it or to not be transparent about it. It is available publicly on our council website. And I can note that in future if you would prefer me to add those types of attachments to all of our reports.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. Councillor Lawrence, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I just have a question because I've still have some unease about this final item 11, about whether we can actually separate this governance report so that we vote for the body of the governance report and vote for item 11 separately.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Through you, Mayor Messina, I believe that's for you to consider as chair.
I'm going to disallow that. We've had plenty of opportunity to have this in the private and now, and oh, my computer's about to restart. Excuse me. Oh, goodness me. Okay, no, I'm not gonna accept that as chair. I think we've had plenty of ample time. I think we ran out of it in the last evening. So, councillors, are there any further questions?
Just I had another quick question, just leading off from what Councillor Lawrence said. Why wasn't the contract made available to councillors as part of the documentation supporting.
I'm going to say it's actually a point. I'm actually going to say it's repetitious, and I think it's already been answered, so I'm not going to allow that question. I believe it's already been asked, Councillor Greco, and it's been addressed not only tonight but at the previous meeting. So, councillors, are there any further questions?
Sorry, Mayor Messina, I'm not sure whether it was not asked. From my memory, it was not asked tonight at all. We're talking about the contract in relation to the employment contract in relation to the chair of the committee and the terms of her extension or otherwise.
Oh, apologies. Is that, or can I just confirm, Ms. Watson, is that really made available, or is that a private contract, or could I ask you to address that, please, Ms. Watson?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. And through you, Member Messina, Councillor, yes, I can absolutely make that available to you. It is a letter of agreement. It hasn't been requested by any councillor. I'm more than comfortable to share that with you all if that would help your decision.
Member Messina, my question was, I'm grateful that it'll be made available to us later. My question was, why wasn't it made available to us as part of the agenda papers for this meeting? That's my specific question.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Through you, Member Messina, I would not typically attach a document like an agreement in the form of that type of arrangement to a council agenda. However, I would typically make it available upon request or to inform councillor decision making.
I have a supplementary question, Ms. Watson. Has any other councillor actually asked for that prior to this meeting tonight?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. No, they have not.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any further questions? Councillors, as there are no further questions, I'm now going to say that we're going to enter into debate. Do I have a motion, councillors? Councillor Rennie.
Thank you, Mayor Messina. I'll move the motion as per the council report.
Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. That's seconded by Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Rennie, would you like to speak to the motion?
Mayor Messina, I've already spoken twice to this motion, once on Monday night and once 15 minutes ago or so I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCarthy.
In the interest of time, Mayor, I'll reserve my right.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Greco?
Yes, Mayor Messina. I'd like to speak in relation to this particular item.
Before I do that, Councillor Greco, can I just ask that the clock be restarted, please? Councillor Greco, you may continue. Apologies.
Yeah, thank you, Member Messina. Yeah, I'd just like to speak in relation to this particular item. Look, I don't have any problems with 10 of the points in the governance report and as part of the officer recommendation. I do have some hesitation in relation to point number 11. I would like to be in a position where I could vote for point 1 to point 10, but as a result of that, I would be requesting that we vote individually. We split the motion and we vote on each individual point, like with the previous practice that we've done, so like that we can expedite the execution of this particular resolution. My reason why I have some reservations in point number 11, I think it's a really important item. It's a contractual item, and I think that we should have received more information prior to the meeting as a matter of course. That is, we should have received the contract. We also should have received the charter, and also we should have received broader legal advice in relation to the whole period and whether that's appropriate to actually have the same chairperson to cover what is now already 4 years, and what if it's passed tonight, it would be 5 years. I would really like some advice on that. I don't know whether that is an appropriate practice, and or whether we should have sort of a quicker turnover of chairpersons of the Employment Matters Committee as a better practice, given that it's a very important committee and probably to refresh. and get some. But I would be seeking advice. I'm actually seeking more information, and so that's why I would be uncomfortable in both of that. And finally, I would say is that I ask your indulgence.
Councillor Greco, that's time. Thank you very much.
Indulgence to split the motion so we can vote on each point. So like that, we can express our clear view.
Thank you very much, Councillor Greco. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Lawrence.
Yes, Mayor Messina. Look, yes, I very enthusiastic and want to vote for points 1 to 10. I have some reservations, not just in terms of the manner things have been presented to us, but also I have some reservations about point 11 that it's going to be passed in this manner. And the reason is, aside from some other issues with the Charter, which have now come to my attention, which we'll obviously have to deal with at another time, in terms of deficiencies of the Charter, this is a little bit like, because now we're getting into going past the 4-year term that was sort of outlined in the initial Charter, we're getting to a point where as an independence and the objectivity could be compromised. And the reason that, and I'll put the chair in a very difficult position, because we now have an independent chair who is involved in the recruitment of the current CEO, but will be asked to do the assessment at the conclusion of when a contract comes to a conclusion. So it's a bit like having, a car salesman is going to sell you one thing, and then you want them to, they're not going to sell you a different one because they've already sold you this one. So there's an investation there and an inherent judgment conflict that's going to be created. And again, I think it's unfortunate we don't have a full council here tonight either to consider this matter. And because one of the principles I think Mary Crooks raised is the importance of consensus-based decision-making.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Hannan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to speak in favour of the motion. As Councillor Rennie has pointed out, I think there's a number of important functions here in the motion as a whole. I'd like to commend the officers for their work in putting this together. There is a huge amount of work that goes into these reports, and particularly distilling them for public consumption, to present them in a way that's simple and understandable. We don't expect volumes of attachments and extra information, really only the information that's required for good decision making and transparency. In this case, to the point that's being discussed, it is a simple matter of a simple contract extension. We've had legal advice. There is no issue with this contract extension. I believe some of the concerns raised are being contrived to create the sense of a legal issue where there is none. I believe the issue that Councillor Lawrence raised just a moment ago is, in my view, outlandish and incredulous to compare this, that the fact that someone has continued in a role to reduce their credibility rather than actually having
point of order,
increased.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
No one's questioning anyone's integrity here. It's about objectivity. And
Councillor Lawrence, when you raise a point of order, you must please go back to your governance rules and apply
item
which
10.1,
item.
misleading statement.
Which misleading statement?
But also could cause offence.
Can I ask you to rephrase that, Councillor Hannan, for the purpose of the debate?
Certainly. I think the word that Councillor was subject to was credible. So I'll go back to the term that he used himself, which was objective. So there is no, it is a nonsense in my view to say that because someone's been in a role for a number of years, they lose their objectivity. You could equally argue that they have developed stronger insights and experience to put them in a better position to inform decisions. This isn't even about the role, the performance of the role. It's purely and simply an extension of a contract, which the council has a right to give, the person has a right to accept. There's nothing else to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannan. We've heard from Councillor Lawrence, Councillor Greco, Councillor Hannan and Councillor Rennie. Are there any further speakers before I go to this?
Councillor Greco? I have an amendment I'd like to move.
Sure.
Yeah, and the amendment that I'd like to move is that, I'm sorry I don't have the word, it's just, is that the council endorses items 1 to 10 and defers item 11.
Thank you, Councillor Greco. Do I have a second?
I'll ask advice from officers to tidy up the wording in relation to that, so that.
Yeah, I think we all understand. Just one moment, Councillor. I think we all understand the purpose of it, so I'll rely on the officers to wordsmith it later on. Are you happy with that, Councillor Greco? Can I confirm that?
I'm happy to. I'm just trying to find a way through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you're happy for the officers to wordsmith this in their own time? Are you happy with that, Councillor Greco?
Yeah, if you come back to me, that'd be great. Yes.
Okay, so do we want to pause then whilst the officers do that, Councillor Greco?
Not a problem. It's up to your discretion, Mayor.
No, I'm asking you because I don't want any other conflict or saying one way or the other. Would you like to adjourn the meeting whilst the officers wordsmith your amendment, or would you like to wordsmith it yourself? So what would you like? What is? I'm putting it to you, Councillor Greco.
Yep.
Councillor, thank you. Just one moment, Councillor Greco. Mr. Mann. One moment, Councillor Lawrence.
Through Mayor Messina, I think Councillor Greco's amendment is quite clear. He's moved an amendment that council endorse points 1 to 10 and defer item 11. I think officers are very clear on that. If councillors are clear, I think we can continue. Are
you happy with that, Councillor Greco?
Yep.
Great, thank you. I'm assuming, Councillor Lawrence, you put your hand up because you were seconding that. Is that correct? Is that correct, Councillor Lawrence?
Yes, I'm seconding the motion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Greco, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Mayor Messina. Yeah, look, I'm trying to find a way through in relation to this. I mean, the first 10 points, there's no dispute. We're all in favour about that. But in order to have a consensus around item number 11, and I am suggesting that we defer it and to a subsequent meeting where we can get see the contract, maybe get that broader legal advice, and also an opportunity for councillors, also because we haven't had an opportunity as councillors to actually do a if you like a self-assessment of the committee over the last 4 years, how the committee has run. What has worked, what has not worked, the pros and cons of how the committee has functioned, and I think it makes sense in all important advisory committees that advisory committees do that self-assessment. I know that the audit committee they do an annual self-assessment in terms of the how the audit committee has run, how the chair has convened the meetings and providing feedback and all those things. We haven't gone through that process, and I think it's only valid that we do something like that so that we can then look at this item in a much more informed manner, and where we've actually ticked off on what should be our governance role and in relation to these appointments. I like to say right up front here, this is not at all questioning the role of the chair. I believe the chair is a highly skilled person, and I have no questions in relation to her skill and her ability. It's just it's more of a governance matter that we need to fulfil in relation to the committee. So that's why I'm saying that we should defer it and have that opportunity to have a meeting. And I think it would be actually a good meeting to do with the chair. And I think that the chair would welcome a meeting of a nature where we assess the functioning of the committee. And also, I think if we were to assess the function of the committee, it actually could inform the go again. My computer keeps playing. We can actually, collectively, reassess the functioning of the committee together with the input of the existing chair. And I think that will be a really valuable exercise, which then will inform the redrafting, if need be, of the charter that actually governs the function of the committee. I see that a functional way forward. It's a bit bureaucratic, but councils tend to be bureaucratic, and I urge councillors to seriously consider that. And I offer that as a way forward to break this impasse. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greco. Councillor Lawrence.
Yes, Mayor Messina. Yes, look, certainly welcome Councillor Greco's motion because suggested amendment, because I felt very difficult that I'd have to vote against a whole governance report just because of one item. And in his debate, he's further convinced me in the notion of doing a reappraisal and also a health check on our own charter with the current chair, and getting those things in order, and then we can proceed forward in a consensual manner. And again, I'll quote Mary Crooks on this. It's very easy to crunch numbers, but the hard work is to work towards consensus on issues, and that's where leadership kicks in.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Do we have any further speakers? Councillors, as there are no further speakers, I'll put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That is supported by Councillor Lawrence and Councillor Greco. All those against? Councillor Messina, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Hannan, Councillor Rennie and Councillor Newton. That motion amendment has not been carried. We go back to the substantive motion that was moved by Councillor Rennie. It was seconded by Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Lawrence has spoken to it. Councillor Greco, Councillor Hannan. Do we have any further speakers? Councillor McCarthy, you reserved your right. Would you like to speak to the substantive motion?
Mayor, I'd just like to actually say in relation to the actual content of the item and the report, I'd like to thank the officers for the detail that's included in there. I would just also highlight for community that in relation to this report, it covers a range of items, and I'd invite community members to look at the detail that's included. There's obviously a lot of detail there. Everything from councillor expenses, which should be reported transparently as they have been, through to a range of other items included as well. So it's a comprehensive report. It has a lot of detail. It's consistent with how these reports have been coming to us in recent months, and certainly in relation to the matter that's been debated in this particular point, it's actually consistent with the amount of information that has previously been provided. So on that basis, I'm happy to continue to support the recommendation as listed. Thanks.
Thank you, councillors. I'm now going to put that motion to the vote. All those in favour?
Member Senator, before you put the motion, could I just ask that if the motion can be split so that we vote on...
Councillor Greco, we've already gone to the vote. You've already put in...
I'm asking a request if the item can be split.
We put it to the vote. Councillors did not support it, so I'm now putting this item to the vote. All those in favour of the substantive motion that is moved, but that is voted on a yes by Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Hannan, Councillor Rennie, Councillor Newton and myself. All those against? Councillor Lawrence. Councillor Greco, are you abstaining?
Yes.
Thank you. That's noted. So that's noted. That motion has been carried. Thank you, councillors. The next report we have to consider this evening is item number 7, consideration of reports considered confidential. Councillors, there are 2 confidential reports to consider this evening. Item number 7.1, strategic property matter. The item is designated confidential because it contains information that will prejudice the council's position in a commercial negotiations if prematurely released, and also private commercial information, being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to a disadvantage pursuant to section number 31A and G2 of the Act. The next item we have is 7.2. The the John Kane Memorial Park State Sporting Facilities, this item is designated confidential because it contains information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiation if prematurely released, and also private commercial information being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking, if released, could unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage pursuant to section 3(1)(a) and G2 of the Act. Closing of the meeting. In accordance with section 66(2) the Local Government Act 2020, Council resolved to close the meeting to members of the public to consider the items designated confidential by the Chief Executive Officer on the basis that matters are confidential in accordance with section 3(1) of the Act. Councillors, do I have a mover for the recommendation? That's moved by Councillor Newton, second by Councillor Rennie. All those in favour? That motion is carried. Thank you. I declare meeting closed to the members of the public at 6:33 p.m. at the request of that office. I request now that officers stop the live streaming.